Hi guys, we are here and ready for module 2 on how to build a wellness expert brand. I hope you guys learned a lot in module 1. I hope it really helped you to reframe, feel less afraid about choosing not only a niche, but a micro niche, and really helped you reframe and find a lot more freedom there. It's so counterintuitive. It feels like for me, I really went kicking and screaming, even though I had all the data and I knew what to do. I feel like I still went kicking and screaming um, into really dialing in our avatar. But what I found is it's the same thing that comes from the rebranding process. And we see it in our clients all the time when they get a new brand and logo visual. Or when they do brand strategy work with us or copywriting, it's just like it's almost like your psyche, your psychic energy can just relax because there's not so many decisions to make, And I've found counterintuitively that the more that we dove into digging really deep with our avatar, I found so much more freedom because I don't have to suddenly ask like a million different questions about who our people are and what they want. We know it now. And every client that we work with, we get some more intel on what they like, what they're struggling with, what they love about working with us, what new problems we can solve for them, because every solving a problem kind of always opens up a new problem. So when you have that little micro niche and you have that really solid avatar, it can help you develop more programs and products for your people, because what you're doing is you're following them along their life cycle, So for instance, we do a lot of work of brand and web design and things like that for our clients. And because they're all in the health and wellness space, we found that a lot of them were then looking around and saying, well, I want to create a group program or an online program or something like that. And it was, well, we can help with that too. It wasn't initially the plan, but it's a natural next step for our people. And so the more that you have a micro niche and you have your avatar, the more that you're going to be able to effortlessly guide them on the next step, because almost everybody's going to be on the same path. I mean, there's going to be little deviations here and there, and not everybody's exactly the same, but it's going to give you a lot of freedom, a lot of power, a lot of extra time. I don't say that lightly, but it gives you extra time when you're not spinning your wheels trying to think of, well, I got to have a message that like speaks to the men and the women and the kids and the grannies and that have chronic fatigue, but also gut issues and this and that. The more that you can bring it down and tailor it, the better, the more confidence that you're going to have in the offers that you have too. So that's a little recap. Moving on to module 2. This one I'm excited about. I'm excited about all of them, but I like this topic too, which is about building brand authority, trust, and confidence. Why is this important? If you are looking to build not just an expert brand, but any brand in general, and you're moving your business online, there's a couple things that you really need to know. And that is that no one does anything online until they have developed some kind of trust and confidence in you or the product or the service. If you think that consumers online are not sophisticated, you are sorely mistaken, and buyers are getting more sophisticated by the day. So it used to be enough to just kind of slap a sales page together or slap some kind of like PDF lead magnet together and say, here, have my freebie. It's, 3 steps on how to be healthy. And that just simply doesn't work anymore, because people have gotten burned. They've bought things, they've downloaded things, and the things don't deliver the goods. And so we want to make sure, and we'll go through the 4 steps for this, or 4 things to think about. We want to make sure that everything that we do, that we provide online, is working towards this here, which is building brand authority, trust, and confidence. So let's break it down. Brand authority is, where do people rank your brand in with other peers? Are you the top tier? Like they're gonna really believe what you're talking, if you put out a piece of content, if you're on a podcast, or like, oh man, that's, Dr. So and so, and she is so well versed in X, So that's brand authority is, um, where do you rank with others? Are you at the top? Are you a newbie? Can they really believe what you're saying? What kind of leads us on to building brand trust? The more that, and the trust and confidence, these all go together. So the more that you have trust and confidence in the brand, the higher prices that people will be willing to pay, the more excited they'll be about working with you, and the more that they'll likely choose you over somebody else in your peer group. And we're going to go through 4 ways that you can build brand authority, trust, and confidence. And now, let me just say that this works whether you're just getting started out or you've been in the game for 30 years. You could have been a chiropractor for 30 years and come online and have no brand authority because of the way that you put yourself out there. It's not conjuring up trust and confidence in you because the website's all janky, and you're like sharing pictures just of your dog on social media, and you don't really have any content, and when you're showing up, it's like the microphone sounds horrible. I mean, you think that these things don't make a difference, and they really do. So there are ways that we can, even from scratch, start to build brand authority, trust, and confidence. Number 1, and they're all pretty simple, but they take a little bit of finessing, to make them work. So number 1 is content. There's a lot of, I'd have to take a deep breath because content is such a big topic. And people ask us all the time, what should I be posting? What should I be, what kind of content should I be creating? How should I be creating that content? Is it podcasts or YouTube videos? What platform should I be on? So I respect the fact that there is a lot of stuff here. But I want to stay simple. I don't want to overwhelm you in these master classes. I want to stay on the framework instead of all the like in the weeds details, but I have lots of other different resources for you if you want to go deeper into all of these things. But when I say content, I want you to think about every piece of content that you put out there, that it has a purpose, that it serves a narrative, and that narrative is going to be the through line of your avatar. So once you've really thought about the avatar and who they are and what their questions are, when you start thinking about content that prepares, I was going to say prepares, that prepares them for working with you. And so what does that mean? Every industry has objections, usually it's around price or time. Sometimes there's objections around like, are you expert enough? Do you have enough expertise? Do you have a big enough, like for us, it's like, what's your portfolio? Who have you worked with? Can I see some samples? Things like that, regardless of the industry, the objections seem to be pretty similar in that in price, or is it going to take me so much time? Does this actually work? Am I going to get good value? Are you the right expert for me? And so with those things in mind, I want you to start thinking about creating content as a way of answering those objections preemptively. So whether that's they're consciously thinking of those as objections, I want you to start working with that. And I want to start thinking about creating content. So whether that's blog posts or podcasts or articles or going live, all of these things are content vehicles. I want you to think about creating content in a way that establishes you as an authority in your space. So that's really like creating some like high quality pieces of content, but then also creating trust and rapport at the same time. And that is a delicate dance, like how to make those two things work, how to have both authority and relatability at the same time, which is why I think content can be really complex, putting all of these things together. There's definitely a lot of complexity there. So content is going to create really a foundation or a cornerstone of putting together a wellness expert brand. And there's lots of different strategies there. But what I really, really want you to take away from this part of the section is that the content needs to forward the conversation in the potential client's mind of yourself as an expert and as the authority. Number 2 is connections. This, for me, has been one of the best ways of building an expert brand in any industry. And this is all about the connections that you make with other people. So we have a way of associating expertise, sophistication levels in business with who we're connected to, right? So it's influenced by association, I guess, is a way to think about it. And the important thing to know here is this is not about using other people for their platform or for their expertise, but aligning yourself with connections in your industry or in adjacent industries that allows potential clients and patients to start seeing you on a similar level of expertise. So there's some great ways of doing this. One is kind of joining different mastermind groups, different Facebook groups of people who are in online business, who are kind of in a similar industry or an adjacent industry. 2 ways that I love outside of masterminding, when masterminding has been incredibly important for me to build my business, both within the industry and within our avatars industry too. So we make sure that we're showing up in masterminds for wellness business practitioners too, because it's important for us to stay up on the connections and terminology and different events that are happening throughout the year. So I want you to think about potentially groups to join so that you can start aligning yourself with powerful connections. But some other ways are, guest posting, getting on a podcast. And my very favorite way of doing it is to be an event host. So something really cool happens when you host an event. I've hosted 2 summits, and both of them have been really powerful in propelling my business forward. And the reason is when you show up at one, put the event together, you'd be surprised when you reach out to people who are above you. You're just like, oh, wow, I wish I could talk to this person, or this person's an expert in my industry. You're going to find yourself, one, with a lot more yeses than you would expect, because everybody is looking for publicity. And so if you put on a summit, and it doesn't have to be a whole 10-day summit or 2-week summit, it could be just a 1-day event or a 3-day event or a workshop series, something like that. What happens is, one, you get surprised by how many yeses you get from people, especially some big names. 2, people start seeing you as the expert. If you are the person who's the leader at the front, you're putting together this wonderful panel of different people in your industry or adjacent industries or something like that. There's a really nice perspective shift that happens where people start to see you as the expert. They start to see, and it's not that you're, lying, and you're probably an expert in there. You're here because you are either an expert or you're becoming an expert in your industry. And so it's time to show that to the world, but when we're just getting started, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone to interview guests, starting a podcast, a YouTube series, some kind of summit or web series or event, and start aligning yourself with connections that are either a step on the same level, a step, or maybe even multiple steps above you, and just watch what it does for your business and watch what it does for people's perspective of you. Number 3 is developing continuity. And continuity means, within this context of building a wellness expert brand, this has a lot to do with the visual side of things, but messaging is important here too, and how all of the pieces of the puzzle interplay with one another. So we're talking about this thing called the through line, right? And so we have a client avatar through line that we should be able to plug in at any point and say whether it's for me or not for me. This message feels very aligned with my problem and where I'm at, and so I'm going to keep going down this path, or it's not for me. And that's just equally, that's okay. We want to repel people as well as magnetize them. We want to magnetize the right people, and we want to repel the people who aren't right for our offer, that we don't want to work with, or just don't fall in the realm of the type of people that we treat. Some people love complex chronic cases. Some people love solving a simple problem, that could be down to personality and your expertise. But continuity is, if I go to, so if you think about this as spokes on a wheel, and we have, the websites over here, and the branding and the logo and the sales pages and your program, and all of the different platform that you have, and just like whether you have a PDF freebie or content, all of it, all of it. What I'm looking for when I'm judging whether, and your patients and your clients are doing this too, when we're judging whether it's an expert brand or not, is we're looking to see, is there continuity? And as consumers, we're becoming very sophisticated and knowing when there's a disconnect. So if you're using, even down to like, if you're using colors and fonts over here, and then I click onto a sales page for your program and it suddenly looks completely different. And the pictures are all like really kind of corny stock photos. Like, I am instantly going to feel like a slight repelling, because my brain is questioning now whether the value is there, whether you really are the expert that you say that you are, and so we want to make sure that we have continuity in our messaging. That means if you are sharing content over here on social media, when I get to your program, that there is a continuous narrative that I was drawn in from your social media content or a live that you did. And by the time I get to the one-on-one services or the group program or whatever it is that you're pitching me, because you should be pitching me something at some point, that I see a continuity in messaging, but also continuity in the visual as well. So what I see on your social media channel matches what I see in the graphics in the program, matches the level of sophistication on the website and the branding and all of that. So the more that we can have continuity in all facets of the brand, the more that we'll elevate ourselves in the perspective and the mind of our prospective clients and patients. And then the last one kind of goes hand in hand with continuity, but a little bit different, is consistency. And so we need to dedicate ourselves, commit ourselves to showing up at an appropriate amount. So for some people are social media divas and they want to post all day, every day. And that's, more power to you. I'm more introverted. I'm not crazy about posting all the time. And so we go for consistent once a day. There's no real hard and fast rules here. And it does change depending on the platform. How often you should be posting or what you should be posting. And I'd say what's actually more important is that you are consistent, because what it does is it starts to create like a narrative, a subconscious narrative in your potential clients and patients, that you're consistent, you do what you say that you're going to do, you show up when you say that you're going to show up with high value. And so people do think about consistency in social media. And I know I see in our clients all the time, they start to get frustrated and they're just like, but I'm showing up every day and I'm not getting followers, I'm not getting likes. And it's, if we take ourselves outside of the lens of needing to get likes, needing to get followers, and bring ourselves more in the space of, I'm going to show up every day or a couple of times a week or whatever schedule you decide, whichever schedule works with your lifestyle and your way of interacting with social media and creating content. Do it in a way that's consistent, show up to be helpful, because it's really going to help drive that narrative that you are consistent, that you're trustworthy. And that brings us all the way back to the purpose of this module, which is to build brand authority, trust, and confidence. And we do that through high quality content, things that are well written, things that help educate your audience, things that help to move them closer to their goal, things that help dispel the objections that they already have in their mind. Connections, making high level, high value connections, being a giver, not a taker, putting together things like summits and events and being a podcast host or a YouTube channel host or someone who's making connections between people to help elevate your brand, having continuity. So whether I plug in at point A or point C or point H, am I seeing a continuous narrative, a continuous visual path that makes me feel like you're high value and expertise and an expert? And then finally, consistency. Do you show up when you say you're going to show up, providing value, being helpful, having a consistent presence, a consistent personality that I can rely on? Be very off-putting for a brand that's known for, I don't know, let's say like Disney, for example. I already use them, but they're just so well known. A brand that's kind of known for like wholesomeness and family friendly, it would be very like brand inappropriate that they didn't show up consistently with that, and suddenly it started showing up with just like very snarky, cynical messaging. That would strike the brain is very odd. And so when you think about yourself as a brand, an expert brand, you can see how weaving all four of these C's, the 4C framework, is a really important thing to do to help drive forward the expertise of your brand. So I'm going to see you guys on our last module, module number 3, and I'll see you over there.